Thank you for joining us. I'm Evan Watson, in tonight for Blair Best. We're continuing our coverage of breaking news this evening. The Ninth Circuit Court has ruled that President Trump can be allowed to order the National Guard, the Oregon National Guard, to Portland to protect the federal ICE building in South Portland from protesters. You're taking a live look at the ICE building now. There are protesters standing on the sidewalks, one holding a sign that says "No troops," and guards overlooking from the kind of rooftop area there to the top right, and some cars looking to leave the gates and drive out of the ICE facility from the inside. That court ruling, as we mentioned, and what happens next is our big story tonight.
Oregon remains united in the fight against this unwanted, unneeded military intervention in Oregon. We're going to continue to show up for our neighbors, make our voices heard, and use our collective power to protect our communities and our democracy. Over the weekend,
Oregon Governor Tina Kotek this afternoon promised to keep fighting the order to send troops to Portland. As of tonight, it's still up in the air, and so far, no troops have been sent to the city. About a week and a half ago, the Trump administration and the state of Oregon each made their case, delivering oral arguments before a three-judge panel. The feds asked the Ninth Circuit to overturn a lower court order temporarily blocking the deployment, arguing the troops were needed to help protect the ICE facility and federal employees. Oregon argued the temporary restraining order should stand because the deployment was unlawful, unnecessary, and protests near the building in South Portland have been largely peaceful. Today, two of those three judges ruled in the federal government's favor. It's a big win for the White House. Here to break down the ruling for us is Kyle Aboshi. Kyle, you've been waiting for this decision for a week and a half now. Was this outcome a surprise to you?
We have been waiting quite a while. It really was not a surprise based on oral arguments. You'll remember that October 10th hearing. The two Trump-appointed judges appeared to side with the federal government, and that's exactly what happened in today's ruling. It was those same two judges that were in the majority overturning a lower court order temporarily blocking the deployment. In essence, this gives the Trump administration the green light to deploy National Guard troops to Portland, but it's really not clear when that might happen.
Kyle, the judges published a 93-page opinion. As you said, this was a split decision, 2 in favor, 1 opposed. Walk us through their arguments.
Right, so the majority, that three-judge panel, basically said the lower court made a mistake here. They pointed to really a number of instances when protesters damaged the ICE building and threatened officers. There was even a point last summer when the building had to be shut down for several weeks. They wrote that the troops under the president's control are needed to relieve federal officers who they say are really stretched thin at that facility. Now, on the other side, the dissenting judge, a Clinton appointee, said her counterparts got it wrong, specifically noting how protesters in costume and participating in the naked bike ride run counter to the president's characterization of Portland as a war zone. Writing, today's decision is not merely absurd, it erodes core constitutional principles, as she explained.
So where can the state of Oregon or the city of Portland go from here? Is the Supreme Court the next step?
Right, so the legal wranglings will likely continue. Just moments after the ruling today, lawyers for the state of Oregon and the city of Portland filed a motion asking for reconsideration. They want an 11-judge panel from the Ninth Circuit to review that decision.
Oregon Attorney General Dan Rayfield is asking the court to do just that as well. In a statement writing, Oregon joins Judge Graber in urging the full Ninth Court to act swiftly en banc to vacate the majority's order before the illegal deployment of troops under false pretenses can occur. And like her, like the judge, we ask those who are watching this case unfold to retain faith in our judicial system for just a little while longer. So Kyle, when could the National Guard arrive in Portland?
That's a question we don't know. The Defense Department really hasn't given us any information one way or another. It does raise another legal question that must be answered. So today's ruling applies to only one of the two temporary restraining orders that Judge Karen Immergut issued earlier this month, blocking the deployment. The court will have to sort out what impact today's ruling has on that second restraining order. Keep in mind, late today, the feds filed a motion to have that second temporary restraining order dissolved.
So much legal wrangling to keep track of. Thank you, Kyle. Let's go now to Catherine Cook. She's live for us tonight outside the ICE building. Catherine, how are people there reacting to this decision?
Hey, Hey, Evan, it's business as usual for protesters out here. They say that they're going to keep continuing to come out here and protest no matter what happens in terms of the National Guard. I'm going to step out of the way so you can see the activity happening behind us right now. You can see ICE agents and DHS agents out here as cars affiliated with ICE prepare to leave the building. As we see every couple of hours, this riles up protesters, and officers are in the street to keep them away from federal agents as they leave the building. Other than this, though, it has been pretty peaceful this evening. We did see 2 people get arrested tonight, but over the weekend there was a lot more of that. Things were very busy in front of the ICE building, especially after Saturday night's No Kings marches. Federal officers used tear gas and pepper spray to push crowds away from the building. It happened as they facilitated their nightly shift change, like what we're seeing right now. The cars leaving the building and arriving. And for months, things had been relatively uneventful other than those nightly protests and occasional clashes with agents. But what caught the president's attention happened back in June. As when protesters circled the ICE facility, some of them broke the glass on the door of the building. Also, at least 1 federal agent was injured during the incidents. And the feds responded. They used pepper balls and rubber bullets, at times witnesses say hitting people who live in the area but weren't involved with the protests. The Trump administration argued that what you're seeing here is why the National Guard troops are needed to help protect the federal building. We spoke with protesters about the court ruling today. They said tensions out here are already high and sending National Guard troops won't make any difference to them.
There's really only so much fear that you can put in people before they just are numb to that. There's only so much tear gas you can give us before we're immune. So, the Oregon National Guard has made it clear that they take their oath to the Constitution seriously, and they would be here to protect the protesters.
I'm back live at the ICE building. That brings us to what local and state officials are saying. They say this is completely overblown. What you're seeing here, they say, does not warrant bringing the National Guard into Portland. But again, as we saw in the court ruling today, things may change very quickly. Folks out here say they'll be ready. They're not going anywhere. Evan, back to you.
Catherine, thank you so much for that update. Portland Mayor Keith Wilson is calling for the federal government to stop the deployment, writing in a statement in part, "Our National Guard members are our neighbors, co-workers, and loved ones, and they deserve better than this unnecessary, unwanted deployment. We will not stand by while federal agencies sidestep local authority. Our legal team, working with the Oregon Department of Justice, will use every lawful tool to prevent this overreach." Portland Police Chief Bob Day wrote, "We will continue to maintain a presence in the area surrounding the federal facility and the South Waterfront, focused specifically on addressing criminal behavior, particularly any threats to property or life safety." Oregon Senator Jeff Merkley posted on social media this afternoon, "Troops are not wanted or needed in Portland. Let's be clear, Trump's sole goal is to stoke violence to justify tightening his authoritarian grip. This fight continues to protect our community." And Congresswoman Maxine Dexter sent a statement saying Trump wants to incite violence and chaos. Portland sees this authoritarian takeover for what it is, and we will not bend the knee. We will remain united. We will meet this moment the way we've met every challenge, with care, courage, and an unwavering commitment to protecting our neighbors. Over the weekend, Mayor Wilson wrote an op-ed for Newsweek magazine saying Homeland Security Secretary Kristi Noem's visit to Portland earlier this month was a great shame indeed. Wilson said that when he was summoned to the ICE facility during Secretary Noem's visit, the ICE facility was a mess of overflowing dumpsters, loose body armor, and crowd control munitions, and a broken HVAC air conditioning system that raised both temperatures and tempers in the aging building. He said the mess was likely some of the reason why local journalists haven't gotten access to the ICE facility in the way conservative content creators and influencers have, writing, "It is little wonder why Secretary Noem has ignored or denied all regional journalists who have requested access to this facility, opting instead to fly in the least credible, most ideologically compromised hangers-on that MAGA social media has to offer." Wilson says he's also concerned about rank and file personnel, saying he imagined they were under a lot of stress as they made decisions with immense human consequences. He wrote, "Most were far from home, overworked, and exhausted, while receiving no pay in the midst of a prolonged government shutdown." Wilson compared his experience to his own time as CEO of a freight company, saying that he could never threaten or bully someone into compliance, writing, "By contrast, the words coming from the administration have been deeply irresponsible, including the threat of the Insurrection Act, a call to use full force in our city, and the suggestion that Portland could be used as a training ground for the U.S. military. What good outcomes could this rhetoric possibly create?" He also listed out reported violence against protesters, saying that he has no way to know if federal agents have any accountability or oversight. And he ended the piece with a challenge to the administration, writing, "The words and actions of the administration have steered the Department of Homeland Security sharply away from its stated core values. Can Nome or any other administration official credibly appear before Congress and state that Homeland Security still represents the values of integrity and service before self, given the dangerous behavior and outright lies of recent days?" You can read the whole op-ed on Newsweek.com. When we come back, construction of a new Burnside Bridge, one that could withstand a major earthquake, has now been put on hold indefinitely. We'll explain what happened to the funding for the new bridge and why the cost has ballooned from initial estimates. The plan to build a new earthquake-ready Burnside Bridge in Portland has been delayed again. This time, it's indefinite. There's no new start date for construction, as county leaders say they're unlikely to get federal funds to move forward. The project is intended to replace the century-old Burnside Bridge with one capable of withstanding a major earthquake in the Pacific Northwest. We've already seen some renderings of a potential new bridge. Multnomah County is continuing its design work, saying it will reach a 60% milestone by next summer. But construction now looks a long way off, if it's possible at all. The 2027 start date was pushed back to 2028 earlier this year. This summer, Multnomah County applied again for hundreds of millions of dollars in federal funds, even though county officials felt it was unlikely.
I think we're realistic about our chances to be competitive for discretionary grants with this current federal administration. It didn't take that much staff work because we've already done it before. It took a little cleaning up. So if it really took a lot of staff work, I'm not sure the benefits would outweigh the work, to your question. But in this case, it does.
That application for $447 million from a federal bridge investment program is still under review. The county says it expects to hear back around the start of the new year, but county leaders seem pessimistic, saying today that the current federal climate is stalling the Burnside Bridge replacement project. Community Services Director Margie Bradway said in a statement, "As uncertain as the future appears, if and when things change, our goal is for the county to be as resourceful and prepared as possible to offer a construction-ready project. When the federal government is ready to invest in our region again, we'll be prepared to hit the ground running and maximize the benefits that federal funding offers." Earlier this year, crews tested the foundations and soil around the Burnside Bridge to see how the bridge would respond to a seismic event. They found the soil is actually more resilient than they first thought, helping engineers shape their plans for a new Burnside Bridge. Currently, there are no Portland bridges crossing the Willamette that are deemed seismically safe. A Burnside Bridge replacement would close that crossing for roughly 5 years, seriously impacting traffic in Portland. The projected cost of the project has nearly doubled from the county's longtime goal of under $900 million to a new projection of $1.6 to $1.8 billion. The county blames rising costs for labor and materials, even though they recently shaved $160 million off the total price tag after a review. Oregon is moving ahead on a plan to replace or repair the state penitentiary in Salem. Lawmakers approved funding for an outside agency to study what should be done. We first told you about the push from the Oregon Department of Corrections to replace the state's oldest prison about a year ago, here on The Story. That's when corrections officials gave us an inside look at the state pen, showing cell blocks without heating and cooling, environmental hazards, and crumbling infrastructure. Wheelchairs lined the first floor because the Echo block there doesn't have elevators. The DOC says its population is aging fast. Nearly 1 in 5 adults in custody are now over the age of 55. One proposal suggests building a new centralized healthcare facility for inmates as part of renovations. And at OSP, maintenance needs are stacking up with more than $100 million on backlog. DOC Director Mike Reese called it his top priority.
I think it's time that we really have a good hard look at this institution and decide if it's the right place for us to house adults in custody, and is it also helping lead to better outcomes, or is the institution itself a barrier to a progressive correctional facility?
The upcoming study of the state pen's future is expected to spark a discussion around incarceration in Oregon, if the state should prioritize a new prison and at what size, or focus instead on reducing the number of people behind bars. Corrections leaders propose building a new facility about 5 miles away on different DOC land, opening up what they call prime real estate in Salem for housing and other development. Still ahead on The Story, it is a groundbreaking advancement that could one day be game-changing for people with disabilities and injuries. And a man in Idaho is only the 6th patient ever to try it out. We'll tell you about the implant in his brain and why he's excited to be part of the research when The Story returns. A big scientific research project is developing in the small town of Buhl, Idaho. A chip created by Elon Musk and implanted in the brain is changing outcomes for people who have been injured. As Hunter Funk reports, a man in Idaho is patient number 6.
Some people spend their lives chasing comfort, but for Rob Greiner, he chased everything else.
Definitely I grew up on that kind of little funny farm. Horses, we had some cows. And then middle school, we raised pigs every year. Chickens. I think there's a chicken out there right now. Doing something, but...
A true Idaho kid who grew up on the Payette River with mud on his boots and adventure in his veins.
I've just done a lot of extreme sports. I like extreme water sports. Jumping off cliffs. Yeah, all that stuff.
That wild streak never left him. Commercial salmon fishing in Alaska, cliff jumping in the Payette, dog training in Boise. If it looked risky or fun, Rob was in.
I tried my best to live my best life, but I guess 33 years was enough of, doing that on 2 legs.
2 days after Christmas, Robbie Greiner was in a car crash that now has left him paralyzed.
The 32-year-old was on his way to visit his son in Nampa when just outside of Buhl, his dad says his car slid on black ice down a ravine and rolled, breaking his neck.
I mean, yeah, I've been in a couple wrecks and done all this, but I slipped on some black ice and yeah, this happened, but...
2 nurses driving right behind him stopped, held his neck steady, and kept him alive before help could arrive.
Yeah, I remember waking up and I couldn't talk, so I had a feeding tube. The surgeons telling everybody that, I'm never gonna be able to talk again, eat again, drink water again, breathe on my own. I was miserable. I was so miserable.
After 11 days in the ICU, he was flown to the Craig Nielsen Rehabilitation Center at the University of Utah.
That team and me being really stubborn and obnoxiously stubborn, somehow we got me off of the trach.
There he learned to breathe again, move his shoulders, and reclaim a piece of independence.
Where I was learning about this stuff, I was like, there's gotta be something I can do just in the meantime to help other people, some kind of trial.
That drive pushed him towards something no one else in Idaho had ever done, a new adventure, but this time inside his own brain.
Imagine the joy of connecting with your loved ones, browsing the web, or even playing games using only your thoughts. This is made possible by placing a small, cosmetically invisible implant in a part of your brain that plans movements.
It connects thought to technology. After waiting 2 years to qualify, in May he took a video call, and in June he had surgery.
They, take a part of your skull out. They have an actual robot that helps them do the surgery. As far as I know, unlike other companies that have tried it, this robot actually can avoid blood vessels in your motor cortex. And so with me, they were able to get 127 strands.
Rob became patient number 6 in the world to receive a Neuralink brain chip.
It is pretty bonkers, especially for, going back to being like an Idahoan and, raising pigs when I was a kid. And then doing this is really kind of, for me, it's super cyberpunk. You're looking at my live right now, my real time what my brain's doing. So if I move like my arm up and down, you can see slight differences in some of this stuff. Like just imagining moving my arm or my hand up and down. But no, there's no eye tracking because it's connected to my motor cortex. Yeah. So I got associated kind of with me imagining my hands on a mouse. And I've, assigned my pinky to be like a right click.
Now he meets with Neuralink engineers weekly, giving feedback to improve the system.
And it's just exciting where they're going with it. And I'm really glad I can be a part of it. I can't control an exoskeleton yet or anything, but I just know with the program or, the science behind it, even though it's new, I know it's doing something.
But Rob isn't in it for himself. He's in it for the next patient.
Every time I meet with them every week, I'm like, you guys get me hooked up with any kind of experiment you got going on. And secretly, even if it's like a backdoor experiment, you just tuck me in there and I'll do it. But no one's doing that, but that's the mentality I do have, where I just want to be as much help as I can.
He jokes about wanting to control robots someday, or even walk again with the help of technology. But until then, his mission is simple: live boldly, help others, and prove that even when life stands still, adventure doesn't have to. I
never thought in a million years anybody's going to be putting chips in their brain. Before I got hurt, it would be like up there with like lobotomy. I'm like, what are you guys doing with whose brain? But I guess I don't know, my little state I'm in right now, I feel like it's perfect. So, like if you're adventurous and you really want to kind of be a part of something, it might not just cure what you got going on at the moment, but if you want to be a part of something, Neuralink is the way to go.
That is the end of our show for tonight. Thank you for watching. If you ever miss an episode of The Story at 6:30, we do re-air the episode at 8:30 and 10:30 at night over on our streaming and TV app, KGW+. It will also run there the next day at 11:30 in the morning. You can download the free KGW+ app right now. It's on Roku, Apple TV, and Fire TV. Thank you for joining us tonight. We really appreciate it. We hope you have a good night. Take care of each other.